Welcome back. Today we're talking about the one question that can reveal more than months of suspicion, sleepless nights, and endless searching. If you've ever wondered whether your instincts are trying to tell you something, stay with me until the end. You've checked her phone. You've replayed every conversation in your mind. You've analyzed every excuse, every change in her behavior, and every moment that felt different. Yet, despite all your efforts, that uneasy feeling still remains. The feeling that she may be hiding something from you. The harder you try to uncover the truth, the more distant she becomes, leaving you trapped in a painful cycle of doubt, anxiety, and confusion. This is the silent battle many men face. They spend their days searching for evidence, looking for signs, and trying to connect the missing pieces while slowly losing their own peace in the process. The cost is deeper than they realize. They lose confidence, emotional balance, and valuable time chasing a truth that may never be discovered through suspicion alone. But what if there was one question powerful enough to cut through excuses, break through emotional walls, and reveal what someone truly feels? A question that does not simply ask for an answer, but forces someone to look honestly at their own actions and the promises they made. Stay with me, because once you understand this question, you'll never feel powerless in uncertainty again. When a man begins to suspect his partner might be unfaithful, his first instinct is usually to investigate. Powerful Hook starts searching for clues, checking her phone when she is not looking, analyzing social media activity, noticing who she interacts with, and questioning every small detail that feels unusual. Some men even create situations to test their partner or suddenly appear somewhere just to see if they can catch a contradiction. Eventually, the pressure becomes too much, and the confrontation happens. He looks her in the eyes and asks the question that seems impossible to avoid. Are you cheating on me? But here is the reality. That question rarely creates honesty. If someone is hiding something, they have already prepared their defense. They know what they will say, how they will explain it, and how to make their story sound believable. By relying only on direct accusations and constant searching, you give the other person control over the truth while you become trapped trying to decode every response. The more you push, the more defensive they become, and instead of finding clarity, you find yourself deeper inside a cycle of fear and emotional exhaustion. The mistake many people make is believing that one more message, one more piece of evidence, or one more investigation will finally bring peace. But often, the search itself becomes the thing destroying your peace. The problem is not that you want the truth. The problem is the way you are trying to find it. Instead of acting like a detective chasing proof, learn to observe patterns, consistency, and emotional connection. Instead of asking questions that someone can easily prepare answers for, ask questions that reveal their relationship with their own choices. Rather than saying, "Where were you last night?" A question that can receive a simple explanation, ask something deeper. "I feel like something between us has changed. How do you honestly feel about where we are right now?" This type of question does not attack or accuse. It creates a moment of reflection. Because maintaining deception requires someone to control not only their words, but also their emotions, reactions, and behavior over time. Eventually, inconsistencies begin to appear. The real power comes from understanding that truth is not always revealed by forcing someone to confess. Sometimes it appears when you create enough space for a person to confront themselves. Instead of asking, "Are you cheating on me?" ask a question that reaches beyond denial. Do you feel like you are still honoring the commitment and promises we made to each other? This question is different because it does not give someone an easy yes or no escape. It places them in front of their own values and choices. A person can prepare facts, explanations, and excuses, but it is much harder to prepare an honest emotional response to a question that requires self-reflection. Their hesitation, their sudden defensiveness, their change in tone, or their need to over-explain may reveal more than their words alone. Because sometimes the truth is not hidden inside what someone says, it is revealed through the struggle to maintain what they are saying. One thoughtful question can reveal more than hours of interrogation, because interrogation forces someone to perform, while reflection forces them to face themselves. A single question has the power to make someone stop, reflect, and confront the difference between the person they claim to be and the person they truly are. But there is one important detail most people overlook. The power of that question depends on your own control. If you ask it with anger, desperation, or accusation, you only give the other person a reason to defend themselves. Their walls go higher, their answers become more prepared, and the conversation turns into a battle instead of a moment of honesty. The real strength comes from asking calmly, without trying to force a confession. It is not about manipulation or creating a trap. It is about creating a moment where truth has room to appear. Surveillance challenges someone's story, but the right question challenges their conscience. And when someone has to face their own values, their own promises, and their own choices, maintaining a false image becomes much harder. The reason one powerful question can reveal more than hours of searching is because deception is not just about telling lies, it is about creating a story. Someone who is hiding something often builds that story long before you ever notice a change. They prepare explanations, organize details, and practice responses to questions like, "Where were you?" or "Who were you with?" Over time, the story can become so familiar that they almost believe it themselves. But stories built on deception are fragile because they only survive on the surface. The moment the conversation moves away from details and toward deeper values, the foundation begins to shake. Instead of asking about an event, you ask about the relationship itself. A question like, "Are you proud of the life we are building together?" does not challenge a timeline or an excuse. It challenges identity. It forces someone to look at whether their actions match the person they claim to be. A person can hide actions, but it is much harder to hide inner conflict. When someone's behavior does not match their values, that tension often appears in small ways. It may show up as hesitation before answering, a sudden change in tone, avoiding deeper conversations, or trying too quickly to convince you that everything is fine. These moments are not about analyzing every movement or treating every reaction as proof. They are about noticing alignment. Do their words match their emotions? Does their reassurance feel genuine, or does it feel like a performance? Words can be carefully chosen, but emotional consistency is much harder to fake over time. The truth often appears in the space between what someone says and how they say it. This is why silence after asking a meaningful question can be so powerful. Do not rush to fill the uncomfortable space. Do not immediately explain yourself or soften the question. Allow the moment to exist. Sometimes the most revealing part of a conversation is not the answer itself, but the struggle someone has while trying to create that answer. The truth rarely arrives through dramatic confessions like in movies. More often, it appears through small repeated patterns, a change in energy, a shift away from future plans, discomfort when discussing commitment, or words that do not carry the same emotional weight as before. The goal is not to become obsessed with catching someone. The goal is to recognize whether there is harmony between their words, actions, and emotional presence. Because when someone's reality and their image begin to separate, those cracks eventually become impossible to ignore. The power of the question does not only come from the words you choose, it comes from the energy you bring into that moment. The same question asked with anger can push the truth further away, while the same question asked with calmness can create space for honesty. Most men, when suspicion takes over, approach the conversation with frustration, accusations, and demands. They enter looking for a confession, but what they often create is a defensive reaction. The moment someone feels attacked, they stop focusing on understanding and start focusing on protecting themselves. The conversation turns into a battle where both sides are trying to win, but nobody is getting closer to the truth. When anger controls the moment, you create resistance instead of openness. Accusations give the other person a reason to defend, deny, redirect, or shift blame. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about what is real. It becomes about who is wrong, who is hurt, and who can defend themselves better. You may believe you are applying pressure, but sometimes pressure only strengthens the walls around the truth. A person who feels cornered will often focus on escaping the confrontation rather than honestly reflecting on their actions. That is the trap many people fall into. They believe intensity creates honesty, but often it only creates a stronger performance. Now imagine approaching the same situation differently. Instead of walking in with anger, you approach with control. No raised voice, no accusations, no attempt to force an immediate answer. You sit down with the calm confidence of someone who wants clarity, not conflict. That calmness changes the entire dynamic. When you are not attacking, there is less reason for someone to immediately put up their defenses. This is not about manipulation or playing games. It is about maintaining self-respect and creating the conditions where a real conversation can happen. A calm question creates space, and inside that space, emotions become harder to hide. The way you deliver the question matters just as much as the question itself. Your body language should communicate confidence, not aggression. Your posture should be relaxed, your eye contact steady, and your tone firm but controlled. Instead of asking, "Are you cheating on me?" which invites a quick denial, ask something deeper. Do you still feel aligned with the promises and commitment we made to each other? That question is not an accusation. It is a reflection. It moves the conversation away from defending a specific event and toward examining the relationship itself. Because when someone has to face their own values, their own choices, and the person they believe they are, the answers become much harder to fake. This is where something deeper begins to happen. Even if someone's words remain controlled, there can be a conflict between what they say and what they reveal emotionally. This is known as emotional dissonance, the gap between a person's words and their internal state. When someone is trying to maintain two different realities, the image they present and the truth they carry, that tension can appear in subtle ways. Their tone may change. Their timing may feel unnatural. Their emotions may not match their words. Someone might say, "Everything is fine," but their energy feels disconnected from the message they are delivering. The important thing is not to judge a single reaction or assume every nervous movement means deception. A person can be uncomfortable for many reasons. What matters is consistency and patterns over time. Do their actions match their promises? Does their emotional response align with their words? Does their behavior support the story they are telling? Truth usually feels natural because it does not require constant maintenance. Deception often requires more effort because a person has to remember, protect, and continue building the story they created. Most people focus only on the words being spoken, but words are often the easiest part to control. The deeper signals appear in the connection between words, emotions, and actions. When you learn to notice that alignment, you stop chasing every explanation and start observing reality more clearly. This is not about becoming suspicious of everything or searching for problems where none exist. It is about recognizing repeated patterns and understanding when something consistently feels out of harmony. Because sometimes the biggest revelation is not found in what someone says, it is found in the space between what they say and what they show. When emotional dissonance begins to appear, many people do not immediately admit what is happening. Instead, they often turn to another psychological defense: projection. Rather than facing their own actions or the discomfort inside themselves, they redirect the focus toward you. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about their behavior. It becomes about your flaws, your reactions, or your mistakes. You may hear statements like, "You've been distant lately," "You're always suspicious," or "You're the reason this relationship feels difficult." The focus shifts, and you find yourself defending your character instead of discussing the original concern. This is how projection works. It moves the spotlight away from the person facing the question and places it onto the person asking it. Projection can be powerful because it creates confusion. If someone convinces themselves that you are the problem, it becomes easier for them to avoid confronting their own choices. Instead of dealing with guilt or responsibility, they create a different story where their actions feel justified. Psychologically, projection acts as a way to reduce internal conflict by placing uncomfortable feelings onto someone else. The danger is that many people fall into this trap. They immediately start explaining themselves, proving they are caring enough, loyal enough, or good enough. Without realizing it, they abandon the original issue and enter a completely different argument where they are the one being judged. The solution is not to fight harder. It is to remain aware. When someone redirects the conversation, pause and ask yourself, is this truly about my behavior, or is the focus being shifted away from the original question? Confusion, excessive explanations, and unnecessary complexity can sometimes be signs that a conversation has moved away from clarity. Truth usually has a natural simplicity, while deception often requires more layers to protect the story. Another common pattern is overreaction. A simple question about the relationship can suddenly create anger, emotional explosions, accusations, or dramatic responses. The intensity of the reaction may become a way to overwhelm the conversation and prevent deeper reflection. However, one reaction alone does not prove anything. The important thing is recognizing repeated patterns of defensiveness, avoidance, and inconsistency. After the confusion, the blame shifting, and the defensive reactions, there is still one powerful way to bring the conversation back to what truly matters. It is not through spying, threats, or emotional battles. It comes down to asking one meaningful question. Are you still proud of the life we are building together? This question works differently because it does not simply ask about an action. It asks about values, commitment, and the relationship itself. It moves the conversation away from denial and toward self-reflection. A person can prepare answers for accusations, but it is much harder to prepare an authentic response to a question that challenges their connection to the life they are creating with you. The reason this question is powerful is because pride in a shared life is connected to identity. If someone feels aligned with their commitment, the answer usually comes with natural confidence and emotional consistency. But if there is a hidden conflict between their actions and their values, that question can create an uncomfortable moment of reflection. The struggle may appear through hesitation, changes in tone, avoiding the depth of the conversation, or trying too quickly to move past it. The important thing is not searching for a single reaction as proof. It is observing whether words, emotions, and actions consistently match. Ultimately, this question is not just about discovering something about another person. It is also about discovering something about yourself. Can you ask for truth without losing your composure? Can you seek clarity without begging for reassurance? Can you accept reality even when it is painful? That is where personal strength comes from. The goal is not to control someone else's answer. The goal is to stand firmly enough that whatever truth appears, you are prepared to face it. Because endless searching rarely creates peace. Constant checking, suspicion, and fear can trap you in a cycle where you lose yourself trying to uncover someone else. But clarity changes everything. When you stop chasing and start observing, you regain your power. You become someone who values truth over temporary comfort and self-respect over endless uncertainty. The truth may lead to rebuilding something stronger, or it may reveal that it is time to walk away. Either way, you are no longer living in the darkness of doubt. You are choosing awareness, dignity, and freedom.